This is the Devil's Guide to D&D. Devil's Delegate here, feeling like the old man of D&D. Well, this old man has been excited by the Warlock lately. So it's time to look at the subclasses. It's time for an up-to-date ranking. I haven't seen one out there, so let's get one that's including Tasha's Cauldron of everything. So, which Warlock subclass is the best, and which should be hurled through hell? Alright, now in looking at these subclasses, all Warlock subclasses start with an extended spell list, and this isn't going to be nearly as big a part of my ranking as it was for the clerics or the newer sorcerers, because Warlocks don't get any of these spells. They're just available. Which means a good list isn't the same as it is for those other classes. Warlocks have a limited number of spells known, and already have plenty of good ones. So a list that contains a bunch of good spells is barely better than a list of all terrible spells. A good list must have a few great spells that can beat out Hex and Armor of Agathis. The rest don't matter. So okay. It's time to do this. Securely in last place is the Undying. The Undying should have that whole horror sort of feel, but it doesn't really pull it off. And even Wizards knows that now, since they've taken the first steps to come up with a new undead Warlock subclass called Undead, currently in Unearthed Arcana. I'm not reviewing that or putting it in the ranking, as I'd be very surprised if it didn't go through substantial changes before it made an actual release sometime in the year in their new dark fantasy book. But if I did, it would be quite high. As for the Undying, well, it's not that most of it is all that bad, it's just that there's nothing good. While you might expect to be doing necrotic damage and dealing with zombies, what the Undying does primarily is try to keep you alive while not doing anything about making you any better while you are alive. Okay, looking at a few of the details, the expanded spell list really offers very little. There's a few good spells here, but probably not for the Warlock. I might come back later at a higher level when I've got some more slots, pick up Silence, possibly Blindness, but for the most part, these aren't very good, and I'm most likely not to take anything. Besides the spells, its first level feature is to give you the Spare the Dying cantrip. You know, the one that's outdated as soon as someone in your party can cast Healing Word more than a couple times. And then it also makes it so that undead are less likely to attack you, which is okay if you're fighting a lot of undead. Also, if your party isn't made up of squishier people than you, because they're just going to attack them instead of you. At 6th level, you get 1d8 plus your con modifier hit points back when you either succeed with a death saving throw or you stabilize a creature with Spare the Dying. By the way, they don't get the hit points back, you do. Well, it's a good chance if you're stabilizing somebody else, you probably don't need the hit points back. That's nice to get some extra hit points back when you make a death saving throw, but outside of that, this isn't something you're going to be using often, if ever, and they don't even let you use it more than once on a long rest. Considering the questionable nature of it, they could let this be at will, and it still wouldn't be very good. At 10th level, you get the ability to hold your breath indefinitely. You also don't require food or water, which I guess could come in handy if you're in a solo adventure, but if you're with a party, they still need to eat, so you probably worked out food by this point in your career. You also don't age, which is great if you're playing a game that goes on for a couple hundred years. The most obvious use of this is going to be in a water campaign, so that you can hold your breath underwater, but that doesn't make this my first choice for a Warlock subclass in a water campaign. Nor my second, nor my third, nor my fourth. And finally, at 14th 13th level, the Capstone, we get Indestructible Life, which allows you, between short rests, to gain back 1d8 plus your Warlock level in hit points as a bonus action. 1 minor healing once. That's it. That's the Capstone. We're going to get to subclasses later that know how to heal. This isn't one of them. I can't be too down on this subclass because I can use all these features without it harming my Warlock class features, which is something I can't say for a couple Monk subclasses and some Bard ones, but it just doesn't offer much of anything. Our final 14th level ability would have been a reasonable one at first level. Everything here needs more. There's simply no reason to pick this subclass up, particularly because most of it isn't very active, so there's not a lot of fun here. There isn't really much to do with this subclass. Coming in at 7th is the Fathomless, which seems a little unfair because as far as effectiveness, it's as good or if not better than the next couple that we'll be getting to. But the design here really has some problems. Now, the Fathomless was designed for a water campaign, so if you're going to be underwater on a bayou, this becomes much more useful. But even then, it's not great. I did a full video on this subclass. Check it out. I talked there more about the expanded spell list. Short version here. There's a few things that are all right, but for the most part, very situational. Works better if you're underwater. Of course, the big feature of this subclass is that tentacle. You get a tentacle, which is about the same as a cleric's spiritual weapon initially. You can use it to hit people using your bonus action. That's nice. And at first level, this is a great feature, but it doesn't scale. So at 5th, 6th, 7th level, it's not so good. And it's not until 10th that it scales, and then only once, doubling the damage. And that's it. After 10th, that's all she wrote. Now, since this uses your bonus action, it's also interfering with Hex, which makes this even more dubious. At 6th level, you get the ability to block with your tentacle, reducing damage to either you or one of your allies. It doesn't reduce that much damage, and it also scales poorly, doubling at 10th level, and then that's it. Outside of the tentacle, things are best if you're in the water. Back at first, you gained a swimming speed of 40 feet and breathing underwater. That's nice for a water campaign, although there's an Eldritch Invocation that gives you this, plus lets the rest of your party also breathe underwater. So you've got other choices for your sea campaign. This also gives you the ability to resist cold, and lets you communicate with people, or fish, when you're totally submerged underwater, which, again, useful in a water campaign and rather silly in any other kind. At 10th level, you're given a spell, Evard's Black Tentacles, which you can cast without using one of your slots. Well, I appreciate that. It's a good spell, and I like anything that doesn't use up my resources, so that's a plus. And finally, we finish up with our teleport, that we can only teleport into a pond or big. Yeah, really. You can only teleport into a pond, which water campaign, fine. Any other, it's gonna be pretty silly. This is a playable subclass. In a water campaign, it's okay. Outside of one, it comes off as kind of silly. Or even if you want this for a water campaign, you really don't have to stick with it. Take one level and you get your water breathing and swim speed, and you get the tentacle. The number of times you can use it goes up with proficiency bonus, so there's not much reason to stay with the class. Certainly not much beyond 10th, when your tentacle damage and your tentacle damage reduction both max out. Coming in at 6th is the Great Old One, and that's kind of depressing because I really like the feel of this. The whole Lovecraftian Cthulhu bit, that really speaks to me. I want this to be good, and the flavor is, but the mechanics really aren't. I don't want them to take away anything that they did or change it so much as to give you more, because so much of what they did give you is situational. Now, this and the next two subclasses feel very much alike, kind of a trilogy, and they get steadily better at what they do, as they all do primarily the same thing, which is they focus on defense with one big capper that isn't defense oriented. So what do we have? Our expanded spells. This is actually a good list. Distant Whispers and Tasha's Hideous Laughter, both spells that I would look at taking. Later, we've got Evard's Black Tentacles. We've heard of that recently. It's worth having. And Telekinesis is on this list, so I'm happy with that. That's as good as it's gonna get. it. Our other ability at first level is Awakened Mind, which is a 30-foot telepathy, which really is just an in-game explanation for how everyone sitting around the table is talking to each other when they shouldn't be able to. There's ways you can play with this, speaking into someone's mind in a deep and scary way, if your DM's up for that. Maybe trying to persuade someone or frighten them. But just from what you're given here, this isn't much. I like having the telepathy, but I would have liked it more if I got something else. We don't get anything else until 6 when you get Entropic Ward. When someone attacks you, you can apply disadvantage to their roll, and then if they miss you, you can then apply advantage to your next roll. Well, it's not bad, but how many times are you being attacked with an attack roll? Remember, there's nothing about this subclass which makes this Warlock want to be anywhere near melee. So, arrows shooting at you, some cantrips, you're far more likely, if you're going to get hit with magic, to have something that's involving a saving throw, and this won't affect that. And then if you want to use that advantage, you have to be wanting to attack them with an attack roll, meaning Eldritch Blast. Well, there's at least a fair chance that you're using Eldritch Blast. Still, this is way too limiting while being way too circumstantial. Then at 10th, we get Thought Shield. This stops anyone from reading your mind telepathically unless you allow it. And then you also have resistance to psychic damage. And then if anyone tries to deliver psychic damage to you, you can get them back with some. Feels right. I like the tone. And it's nearly worthless. I've played this game for 40 years. I don't recall a whole lot of time when stopping someone from reading my mind has been very important or come up at all. As for psychic damage, well, if you're in that Mind Flayer campaign, sure. Otherwise, it's unlikely ever to come up. So you've got 2 defenses and some telepathy. And you top it with Create Thrall. Not Create Thrall, it's Create a Mildly Pleasant Acquaintance. You're not making a thrall. You're not making a slave. You're not making a servant. You're charming someone. And charming doesn't mean it's going to do any of those things. It just gives you some advantage and makes them not attack. And you can only use this when you touch an incapacitated humanoid. So it's got to be a humanoid. Do you have a lot of incapacitated ones to touch so that you can make an acquaintance? If this was actually making you a thrall, making you a cult follower, then this would be pretty good. But it just doesn't do much of anything. Even if it's all social, this doesn't do much. There's nothing saying the guy has to stick around. I like the feel of the Great Old One, but it just doesn't deliver on. So does my choice for 5th place deliver better? Well, better, though fairly similar. It's the Archfey. And we start off, once again, with a pretty good extended spell list. Fairy Fire is good. You might want to have that around, but Sleep is an absolute must-have. If there's any spell which you'll clearly want to cast over Hex, this is it. Yeah, Sleep isn't good for long, but at 1st level, 2nd level, this is absolutely your go-to. After that, there's a few maybes till we get to Greater Invisibility and Seeming. Both spells I want. Greater Invisibility for myself, Seeming for the party. Very happy with this spell list. And it's good that I'm very happy with this spell list because the other thing I get at 1st level sucks. This is Fey Presence, and what it lets you do is to spend an action to make creatures in a 10-foot cube originating from you save or be charmed or frightened until the end of your next turn. Yes, end of your next turn. So, not a long time. And I saw another reviewer with a whole lot more followers talking about this the other day, and they liked it a lot more than me because they fouled up what a 10-foot cube was. A 10-foot cube originating from you is not a 10-foot radius cube around you. It's 10 feet square touching you. That is, it's a box that can include at most 4 people. So if you are surrounded, this feature does you no good. The maximum number that you can get with this is 4. More than likely, you'll get 1. And you shouldn't ever be doing this at all. If you're in a situation where you've got 1 or more bad guys right next to you, you've fouled up. You're in the wrong place because just like our last subclass, nothing about the Archfey makes you able to stand anywhere near melee. You can't have someone right next to you. They're going to kill you. And if someone is right next to you, you need to be somewhere else. Spending your action to do this is probably a bad move. I'd suggest using the disengage action and then running away. That would work out much better for you. There's almost no times when this is a good idea. I suppose you might do it in a bar for fun. Everyone will hate you, but you can. At 6th level, we get Misty Escape. Much like our last subclass and our next one, we're getting defensive abilities here in our middle ground, and this one's not bad. When you take damage, you can vanish in a puff of mist and teleport away. That's what that earlier ability should have done. That is, get you out of there. I'd like it a whole lot more if you teleported away before you took the damage. But no, it's after. So, assuming you're not dead, this is okay. At 10th level, there's Beguiling Defenses, which gives you immunity to being charmed, which, depending on your campaign, could be something very useful. Charm pops up a lot, and particularly if you're fighting other spellcasters, you're going to see a lot of charming. Now, when another creature attempts to charm you, then you can use this in order to try and charm them back. How often will that come up? Probably not going to happen enough that I'm going to be really happy about having a feature dedicated to it. Again, a good subclass is giving you features you get to use. At 14th, you get Dark Delirium, which is basically a spell. I'm not a big fan of features that are equivalent to spells, but you are a warlock and you only have limited spell slots. In this case, it's designed to take one enemy out of the fight. This one takes one out for a minute. You're using your concentration, so that's all you're doing, and he's tossed into an illusionary world. It's good. The Archfey, outside of Fey Presence, has some good features, but once again, I just want more. But that's going to change now. The third of the trilogy of subclasses, which to me feel the same, is the one that really does get it right. And from here on, our Warlock subclasses start to glow. All of them are now good. So coming in at number 4, we have the Fiend. Basically what the Fiend does is just focus on making you the best Warlock you can be. It doesn't add a lot. It doesn't change your style of play. If you're going to take the Fiend, you're going to play your Warlock exactly the same as you would have played it if you had no subclass whatsoever, but you're just going to be a lot better at it. You're still going to be a glass cannon, but you're going to be a good one. It's funny that as the best of the 3 similar subclasses, this is the one with the weakest expanded spell list. It gives you a lot of blasting fire attack spells, and there's some good ones here, but you're a warlock. You really don't want a lot of one and done spells. You need things that stick around for a while. Burning Hands is decent, Scorching Ray is decent, Fireball is downright good. I love Command when playing a different class, but for a warlock, not really worth the spell slot. Wall of Fire might be something to take as it gives control and is probably the high point of this list, although you're probably going to take Fireball. Also at level 1, we get Dark One's Blessing, which gives you some temporary hit points if you happen to be the one that kills a bad guy. Obviously a little situational because maybe your allies are going to be the ones killing the creatures, but you are a damage dealer, so it might be you. At 6th level, we have Dark One's Own Luck, which allows you to add a D10 to an ability check or saving throw, and you can do so after seeing the initial roll. A D10 between each short rest. This is fabulous. This is the best ability we've seen so far. I've been talking about how these subclasses have been giving you defenses, and most of them have been pretty lackluster. This is not lackluster. You will use this all the time. Every battle, this is going to come up, and it will save you. And the hits keep coming with Fiendish Resilience, which after a short or long rest allows you to choose a damage type to be resistant to. Any damage type that lasts until you take another rest. This is some seriously good defense. If you know what you're going to fight, you can choose specifically what kind of resistance will best help you. So often, your character is going to have resistance to some type of damage or another, and it's not going to help you any because you're getting hit by other things. But what if you don't know what you're going to run into? Well, then you can choose the most common type, which means you're no worse off than the very best of anybody else with resistance. How about choosing slashing damage? Choose piercing damage. You're a warlock who's staying behind the lines, and maybe the only way they've been getting at you is with bows. Seriously good ability. And like our last two, after we get several defensive features, we end up at 14th with our more more offensive one. And again, it's a spell-like ability. It's Hurl Through Hell, and you get to do 10d10 psychic damage to someone while throwing them through hell, which mechanically just means that you're banishing them until the end of your next turn. Banishing a big bad guy until the end of your next turn is pretty decent. Doing 10d10 damage is great. Flavoring the whole thing as if you're dumping them into hell, perfect. This is a well put together subclass. It's a whole lot like the last two, which didn't quite make it. So what I'd suggest is if you're feeling more Fey-like or Old One-like, talk to your DM. See if you can play this subclass instead and reflavor it. I mean, Hurl Through Hell, that can be the same as Hurl Through the Feywild, or Hurl Through the Endless Unknowable Void. Fiendish Resilience could be Fey Resilience, or the Unknown Resilience. Dark One's Own Luck, Fey Luck. Old One Luck. If your DM's really kindly, he'd let you take the more appropriate expanded spell lists. That's the fourth best, then we're going to have to be getting pretty good here. And we are. At number 3, it's the Celestial. Some people don't think of warlocks making pacts with the upper planes, with angels. Why not? This is a solid subclass most of the way through. A majority of the features are good to really good, but in the end, this is all about one. This one gives you a healing feature that is one of the best in the game. And depending on what you're facing, could be the best in the game. As a secondary party healer, the Celestial Warlock is the best in the game. And if it wants to, it can be a primary healer without too much trouble. What's so great about this is it adds in all this healing ability without in any way taking away from being a solid base warlock. Okay, what do we got? Well, again, we start with the expanded spell list, and they're not bad. Guiding Bolt is a very good first level spell, but as a warlock, it doesn't particularly speak to you. Flaming Sphere, however, sticks around for a while. You might find use for that. But if you're going to be the party's healer, you'll definitely find use for Lesser Restoration, Greater Restoration, and Revivify. If you're not, if you're just going to be the secondary healer, you still take Revivify. This is a good list because it has Revivify on it. You can bring people back to life. That alone makes this a good list. Also, at first, we get a couple cantrips. Light and Sacred Flame. Hey, they're free? You're a warlock who doesn't get enough cantrips. Someone in the party should have light. Why not you? It's not your only first level feature. Remember earlier, I was fine with getting that telepathy from the Great Old One if I got something else. Well, here we get something else, and it's big. What we get is Healing Light, and Healing Light is as good a feature as you could possibly want. You get a pool of d6s equal to your warlock level plus 1, and you can send them to heal people. You can do this as a bonus action and at a distance of 60 feet. So what you've got here is a slightly weaker version of Healing Word. The amount of healing that you do with Healing Word is not what makes that such a good spell. It's that it's a bonus action at a distance, which means someone gets knocked down to 0 hit points, someone with Healing Word can get them right back up again. And so you can with this. At first level, you've got 2 of these. You've got 2 weak Healing Words. Do you know how many times a cleric can cast Healing Word at first level? 2. And if he does, that's it for the day. He can't cast anything else. You can use Healing Light twice, and you still have all your warlock casting. At 10th level, you can heal 11 times with this. 11 times you can get your party members up from 0 hit points. Some people complain, oh, it doesn't do a lot of good to heal someone up from 0 if he can just get hit again and go right back down. Well, true, except this warlock can do it time after time after time. So you're every bit as good a warlock as you were before, and now you can cast a whole lot of weak Healing Words. 6th level, you get the weakest of this subclass's abilities, which is you gain resistance to radiant damage, which, well, if you're fighting clerics, that might come in handy. Otherwise, almost nothing does radiant damage. Sort of reminds me of that whole psychic damage thing. And you also get to add your charisma modifier to your radiant and fire damage spells. Of course, it's only against one target. Since you're a warlock, the real use for this would be to add it onto your cantrip or Sacred Flame. And that's the thing. You're gonna be better off still just casting Eldritch average blast. It'll do more damage. And that's kind of a disappointment. It's enough of a disappointment and enough of an oversight that I talked to your DM about adding an invocation that can buff up Sacred Flame. I added one that allows Sacred Flame to do some very short-term blinding when it hits. 10th level gives you Celestial Resistance, which gives you some temporary hit points and lets you give some to the rest of your party, a little bit less. It's not showy or exciting, but we've already had showy and exciting, so this is fine. Then at level 14, when you make a death saving throw and succeed, you regain hit points equal to half your hit point maximum, stand up, and then do radiant damage to everybody in 30 feet of you. And you blind them all. Okay, you're going to want to be a little bit picky about where you stand when you're dying, and this probably won't come up that often. But do you remember when we were talking about the Undying and the little bit it gets if it makes a death saving throw? This is impressive. I like to have features that I can use a little bit more often than this is likely to be used, but if I'm getting a feature which is a in case of emergency break glass feature, which this is, I want one that really takes care of the emergency, and this does it. Okay, well, if the Celestial is so good, what comes in at number 2? Well, some people are going to be surprised that this isn't number 1, but number 2 is the Hexblade. And there's a good argument for the Hexblade being the best subclass in all of Dungeons & Dragons. It's the most powerful subclass at first level. It's the most played subclass in the game. It's the subclass that has most changed the game. It's the one where WotC threw out all of its rules about balance. They didn't care if this thing was balanced. They decided they wanted to make a Warlock melee swordsman. And since you really can't have that with Warlock, they were going to give it everything it could possibly need so that it could be one. They basically had a class and they stripped it apart, made it a subclass, and stuck it in here. The Hexblade supplies everything you need to take a squishy glass cannon and turn him into a melee warrior. And the rest of the features, for the most part, are pretty good. So if this thing is so great, why is it not in first place? Well, it's because I am ranking Warlock subclasses, not subclasses, Warlock subclasses. And Hexblade doesn't make the best possible Warlock. I mentioned before, more people play the subclass than any other subclass in the game, but they don't just play that. Very few of those people are playing 20 levels of Hexblade. Most of them are playing 1. After that, a majority are playing 3. This is the ultimate dipping subclass. The Warlock as a whole is a front-loaded class, and this is the most front-loaded subclass there is. Sure, you can get good stuff if you keep on with the subclass, but why? Just pop in and get all that good stuff for one level, and then go find some other good stuff that you can have. Half the classes in D&D gain something by taking a level of Hexblade, and for a few of them, it's become mandatory. For paladins and sorcerers, pretty much should always take a level of Hexblade. Is it bad that this subclass changed the game so much? Nah, no, but it's interesting. So what did the subclass do? Let's start with the expanded spell list, and I'm not thrilled by this list. It's not terrible. Shield's a good spell, although it doesn't scale. A lot of the spells are smites, and smites require concentration. That doesn't play with Hex, and Hex is going to be my go-to as a Hexblade. This is a mediocre list that I might dip into. If I take any of these, I probably won't take them for long. But that spell list is a small part of things, because first level has so much more to give. Hex Warrior gives you proficiency in medium armor, shields, and martial weapons. You've got armor, shields, and weapons now. You're protected and using things that do real damage. That's great. What you then get to do is touch one weapon, and when using it, use your charisma modifier for your attacks instead of strength and dex. This is what makes a Warlock able to be a fighter. It's also what allows a Paladin not to have to spread all its stats all over the place, because paladins like charisma too. Now you can see the design problems here. This really should have been part of the Pact of the Blade pack gift, but you don't get that until 3rd level, and if you're going to be a melee warrior, you need to start that way at level 1, so they had to stick it in here, even though it doesn't really fit. For some of the other subclasses, we were given one little thing at level 1. Remember telepathy? Here, we've been given a huge thing in which the parts of it are huge. Armor, shields, weapons, ability to fight with charisma. That's all big stuff, and we get more. We also get Hexblade's Curse, which allows us once per short rest to put a curse on somebody, and when you do so, you get to do extra damage to him, you get to crit on 19s, and if he dies, you get to regain hit points. All of that is really top-notch. It's good if you don't want to fight in melee. If you're going to be a squishy warlock in the back, I mentioned how all those other subclasses were giving you defenses. Well, you can take Hex Warrior, continue being a cannon from the back, but you're now wearing medium armor and holding a shield. And that is what most players who will play this class will see, because they're going to be gone before you reach 6th level. Alright, for the few who stick around, what do you get? At 6th level, when you slay a humanoid, you can cause it to rise up as a slightly buffed specter and become your new pet. Doesn't last long, but then you can do it again. And a specter is a pretty good pet to have. Certainly going to be great for spying. You can use it for fighting. It's solid. Now, you've got to have a humanoid that you've killed, so depending on the campaign, this could pop up a lot, or it could pop up nearly never. At 10th level, you get Armor of Hexes, which makes it so that the guy who you've cursed, even when he hits you, he then has to roll again with a 50-50 chance of not hitting you. This will be useful in the big boss fights, when you just end up giving the bad guy, no matter how good he is, a 50% chance of missing you on top of his normal attack. Not as good as, for instance, we got at the Archfey at this level, but it's pretty good. And finally, at 14th level, we gain the ability to use our Hexblade's Curse more than once. When someone dies with it, we can move it on to a next person. That's nice. Chances are you put it on the person you most needed it on to begin with, so this doesn't do a lot, but it's certainly a welcome feature, as are all of these. The Hexblade makes you what it says it's going to make you, which is a melee warrior, and it gives you some good features. Thing is, because it's so front-loaded, you'll probably be an even better melee warrior if after level 1 or level 3 you sneak off and get yourself some levels in fighter, or some levels in paladin, or some levels in something else. This is a good subclass. It's a great first level of a subclass. Alright, so what can beat that? What is better than the game-changing Hexblade? Well, it's our little friend from Tasha's Cauldron of everything, the Genie. And the Genie is fantastic. I've done a whole nother video on why the Genie is so good. I'll be shorter here. Take a look there if you're interested. What it amounts to is the Genie gives you the ability to be really good as a warlock, doing more damage, gaining more maneuverability, surviving longer. But then it way ups your versatility in spells. This gives you a lot more options. But then you also get your Genie Vessel, which is the second part of this subclass, which gives you a whole nother group of abilities that don't take away from anything else that you're already doing and gives you so much more. Alright, you get an expanded spell list. As I explained in the other video, the Merit and Afridi spells, not great. The Genie or Air Genie spells are pretty solid. Dao spells, they give you Stone Shape and Wall of Stone, which is a fantastic control spell that you will absolutely take and absolutely keep, making Dao the best choice. Although if you take Genie, you'll be happy. Genie's Wrath allows you to add your proficiency bonus damage once a turn, and the type of damage is based on what kind of Genie you took. With Dao, that means you're going to be doing bludgeoning damage. That's a good type of damage. At 6th level, you're getting a type of resistance based on which type of Genie you chose, some better than others. But you're going to hardly notice that decent feature because you're also getting Flight. You get Flight with Hover for 10 minutes at a time, number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus, which means pretty much whenever you need to fly, you're going to be able to fly. Flight, one of those really good abilities, particularly when it's non-concentration flight. You've become a mobile air platform. This synergizes great with Repelling Blast, as now you can get whatever angle you'd like to push your enemies against a wall, over a cliff, or just where you want them to go. And there's is 14th level and Limited Wish. And Limited Wish lets you cast every spell in the entire game of 6th level or lower that has a casting time of 1 action. Every single spell. This is more versatile than the Wizard. This is more versatile than the Bard. Remember I mentioned before how good Revivify is? You have Limited Wish. You can bring them back to life. You can get rid of curses. All the spells you couldn't fit on your list before, or just too situational, or you didn't have access to, you can now use. You've got them all. So the subclass is giving you buffs, mobility, and versatility. And now it's got something really different. One of my favorite features in all of D&D, and that's the Genie Vessel. You get a Genie Vessel. A bottle, or an urn, or a ring, whatever it is, you can go inside your Genie Vessel, which is an extra dimensional space. 20-foot radius, 20 feet high, very comfortable, as a Genie bottle ought to be, and stay there for 4 hours at first level, and eventually up to 12 hours. Now, why is this so fabulously good? Well, your Genie bottle is a combination of things. It's a bag of holding. It's a catnap short rest supplier. It's all the stealth that you can possibly ever require. It's your escape mechanism. Hey, you're going into town and you can't let them see the severed heads of their friends that you all killed. No problem. Jump into your Genie bottle with them and store them there. Hey, cleaning out a dragon's hoard? You can store that all in your Genie bottle. Need a short rest when the rest of the party doesn't feel like taking a short rest because they're not warlocks? Pop inside your Genie bottle and let one of the other party members carry you. Want to sneak somewhere but your stealth isn't good? Pop inside your Genie bottle and have the party member with good stealth carry it in. Need to sneak in but nobody in the party is good enough? Make your Genie vessel a ring and have the fighter toss it over that fence that no human can possibly pass through, because you can now. Want to overhear a meeting? Set your Genie vessel in the room and pop inside. Too wounded in battle to continue, but the party looks like it's going to win? Pop inside your Genie bottle and heal up. Facing a room full of frightening undead? Well, if you've filled your Genie bottle up previously with holy water, then break the bottle, you've made a holy hand grenade. And if you go Pact of the Chain later, you want to go somewhere, jump inside your Genie bottle, have your invisible flying imp pick it up, which makes your Genie bottle invisible, and now you can fly anywhere. The possibilities for in-combat and out-of-combat uses for this are limitless. And then at 10th level, you get to bring other people in with you, and when you do, they can all take a short rest in 10 minutes. They also regain some hit points when they do, but quite frankly, that's trivial compared to everything else. And once you're at that point, you're able to actually take long rests in your Genie bottle. If you've made your vessel into something particularly small, a ring is just a good choice. Drop it into a tree trunk. Put it in the corner of a dungeon somewhere, and everyone pops in for an 8-hour rest as those searching for you keep going round and round and round. This subclass is so solid. It was a very good subclass before we get to the Genie vessel. With it, this is tremendous. It gives you so many options, and it's all so much fun. It's got style, and what's great is you're still not done, because the Genie Warlock offers one last thing. Something no other subclass has done to this point, which is its expanded spell list has one more spell. They've put a 9th level spell on here. You get Wish. You get the best spell in the game, and you can now cast every 8th level or below spell in the entire game. And now we're not talking about ones that have an action casting time. We're talking about all of them. So as a Warlock, you're now casting Clone. You're now casting Simulacrum. You now have a magical steed. You have a familiar. Well, you probably already had one of those before. Wish is the icing on top of an amazing subclass. This thing wins out in every way. Effective? Yes. Variety? Yes. Style? Yes. Fun? Yes. It is the king of Warlocks. I crown it so. Depending on what type of character you want to play, you're not going to go wrong with the top 4 subclasses for the Warlock. The Fiend, the Celestial, Hexblade, and then Genie. Any of those, you're going to make a great character and have a lot of fun with them. The other 4, well, you might have fun with them, though quite frankly, some of them are not going to be that fun to play. You don't get to do that much. They don't offer a lot for play styles, and those that do are just a little weak. Still, there's no Warlock subclass that I say is purely bad. They're only bad in comparison. They all give you something. But then I like to get as much as I can. So, Genie Warlock it is. And that's it for the Warlock. There's some amazing stuff there, as you can see. A lot of subclasses that are just fun to play and you want to dig into. So dig into them. Thanks so much for listening. Keep playing D&D. Please remember to subscribe and like. And I'm too old to think of anything else tonight.